I had flights booked back in spring 2020 to Italy to do a bikepacking trip over the Italian Alps. Because of COVID, that got cancelled, but I did get my money back in the form of a voucher. I finally got round to spending it, and I decided to take myself off for a long weekend bikepacking trip in a country I've never been to before, Portugal. Thank you very much for watching my bikepacking film. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and any questions or comments, as always, leave them in the comments box. If you want to follow me on the likes of Instagram and Strava, check out those links, they're always in the description, and you can find out a little bit more about me and the gear that I use on my website, which is also linked in the description below. As I mentioned at the beginning of this film, back in late 2019, I'd booked myself a bikepacking trip for spring 2020 through the Italian Alps. And because of COVID, and Milan was one of the worst places, or the first places to be hit by COVID, I didn't go, it got cancelled. But I got my money back and been holding on to these vouchers for ages, trying to find a suitable time to use them. And I decided to use them for kind of a long weekend, 4 days really, in Lisbon. I've never been to Portugal before, and it was a brand new experience. It was somewhere that I really wanted to go. I went in early May, so the weather was absolutely perfect. Nice and sunny, not too hot, but warm enough that it felt like a summer holiday. So I used the vouchers for that. I flew from Manchester to Lisbon with my bike in the bike box, and then I got a taxi from the airport to the hostel where I was staying, which was the Lisboa Central Hostel. I saw really good reviews for that on the internet, and it was a really nice place to stay. They were really accommodating, open 24/7, which helped me because I came quite late, and they even let me store my bike box in a storage area. Breakfast was also included, which was great. Before the first day of cycling, I carved up there, got a few bits to put in the panniers, and then set off. The plan was to cycle around Lisbon just to see the sights a little bit first, and then go to Sintra Natural Park. Now, Sintra is a town in itself, and it's absolutely stunning. It's where the palace was and the castle and all of that, which I'll get to. But the natural park is in itself a fantastic place to go. Beautiful trails, hardly anybody around, and it was probably a couple of hours, few hours cycle from Lisbon, so it's absolutely doable for anybody. So it's definitely a place you should check out. So before I found somewhere to sleep for the night, I cycled to the west coast of Portugal to a place called Cabo de Roca, which is an incredible lighthouse overlooking amazing blue waters. And when I went, it seemed like there was a meadow in constant bloom. It looked absolutely stunning. I flew the drone over there, over the cliff face, which at that time of day, because the sun was setting, you got a nice glow on the cliff. So it was absolutely beautiful. If you're planning on cycling, doing anything similar to this loop, it's absolutely worth cycling to the coast and getting a view of that. It is very busy with tourists. Again, I think that might have been to do with the time that I went as well. There were a lot of tour buses, but because I was on a bike, I could kind of sneak through everybody. I even had a fantastic meal there as well. I was a bit short on food, so I used that as an opportunity to stock up. Had a big burger, sat in the restaurant overlooking the sea, and carved up before cycling back up the hills to find somewhere to sleep. So as you'll have seen, I wild camped in an abandoned house in Sintra Natural Park, and at first it was a little bit unnerving, but it worked as a really good place to sleep. It was pretty good. I did look for other places first, but I just couldn't find anything of any use, so I ended up just sticking with that, and I'm glad I did. It was an interesting experience. Welcome to my accommodation. Not the nicest accommodation I've stayed in, I've got to be honest, but it's fine, it'll do. So places like this, it's an old derelict house by the looks of things, can be really, really good when you're bikepacking. It can be a really good option if you're wild camping. The reason for that is, well, a couple of reasons really. Number one, the ground is always flat because it's a house, so as a result of that, you can lay and not worry about slipping out of your sleeping bag or your tent. But as well as that, you've got walls, so there's going to be very little in the way of wind. So naturally, it just keeps you a little bit warmer, sort of less exposed from the elements. Well, in my case, I've actually got a roof. So even if it does rain, which is not going to, but if it did, I would be fine. So let me give you a little tour. This is my sleeping quarter. Very fancy. I imagine this was once a shower, you'll see what I mean. Even got the hose pipe outlets, whatever they're called, tap outlets there. Looks pretty cool actually with the ivy. I saw that someone had built this and I did contemplate sleeping on it. It's pretty sturdy, to be honest. I sat on it and it was absolutely fine, but I just have a feeling that it could potentially break and I'd end up on my arse, and that's not something I fancy doing. I did even contemplate sleeping up there because I thought that'd be great. I'm a bit raised up away from anything if anyone was to come in, but no, there's not much space up there, so that's my accommodation quarters for today. You can actually see some remnants of the old tiles there, which is quite sad really. You can imagine it was probably once quite a nice house. Even got a chimney there as well, but it's just gone to wreck and ruin. Anyway, off to sleep. I'm absolutely exhausted. It's been so hilly today. I just can't wait to sleep, so I'll see you in the morning. So I didn't bring the tent for this one. The weather was going to be really nice. The forecast was for lows of about 14 or 15 degrees, which is pretty mild. So I just brought the bivvy bag with me. I brought all my usual kit, the panniers, the roll-up bag at the front, all Topic stuff that I've used for years, which I absolutely love. But having the bivvy bag is a little bit more stealthy, so you can kind of get away with sleeping anywhere without anyone noticing, which was the reason I took it, not just the weather. I didn't really know where I was going to sleep at this point, and in the past I've been a bit more organised with organising places to sleep, but I thought I'd wing it, and the bivvy bag was perfect for that. So the following morning, after sleeping in that abandoned house, I cycled to the actual town of Sintra, and that's where all that incredible architecture was. So there's a Moorish castle, which looks like something out of Lord of the Rings, really. It goes down the ridge of the mountains or the hill there. Really spectacular. At this point it was like 7:30 in the morning, so there was nobody around. It can get quite busy with tourists. But just opposite that is the National Palace of Peña in Sintra, which is the brightly coloured yellow and red and blue palace, which just looked absolutely mesmerising. Really incredible scenery. I flew the drone up there. It's on the edge of a no-fly zone, so I flew it up and I could only go so far, but I managed to get some stunning scenery. Definitely worth checking that out. I would recommend going early as well, because from what I've seen online, there's a lot of tourist buses and things that come later on. There was nothing open, but I think I would prefer to just enjoy it in peace and not have anything open rather than be surrounded by tourists. I carried on then, did a little bit of a loop back to Lisbon. I had a bit of a break and had a Portuguese tart at this cafe, which was absolutely incredible. I love Portuguese tarts anyway, but being in Portugal, I had to have one from the country, and it was absolutely fantastic. Just what I needed, the perfect carving up food for a bikepacking trip. I carried on then down to the coast and went along the coastal path where there's a lot of walkers, a lot of cyclists, really great cycling infrastructure actually, really smooth paths, takes you away from the traffic, and it goes all the way back to the main bridge in Lisbon, which then you can sort of turn left and back into the city if you wanted to. So I did all of that. I had a fantastic time, incredible scenery, worked my way back to the hostel where I'd left all my stuff and the bike box, and then unfortunately I had to go the following day, so I did have to reassemble the bike. It made for a great long weekend break, but I would have liked a little bit more time. This was actually the second time this year that I managed to leave the country. It's been so long since I did that I've made a bit of a point of doing it this year. I've got another international trip coming up, which is very exciting. I won't reveal that just yet. But if you'd like to see the other international film I did this year, where I went to the island of Tenerife in the winter and cycled up the volcano, just click that link up there and that'll take you to that video. I hope you enjoyed that film. I will be bringing out another bikepacking film every single month, so stay tuned and I'll see you in the next video.